These Jews actually say that Zionism is a rebellion against the Creator. With the acquisition by the Zionist nationalists of the power to organize communities in Palestine, they formed the Vad Halumai Leknesset Yisrael, or the National Jewish Council Committee. This committee ignored the rights of the Orthodox veteran dwellers who did not recognize this validity of Jewish nationality and whose identification as Jews was solely with their loyalty to their religious heritage. The religious inhabitants, on the other hand, shuddered at the prospects of spiritual disintegration of world Jewry with the new rise to power of the Zionist nationalists. The Orthodox inhabitants actively objected to being subject to the authority of the secularists. They appealed their cause to the League of Nations, who consequently granted them a right of exclusion to the subjugation of the Vad Halumi, which rights provided that any Jew wishing not to be incorporated into the Vad Halumi may remain lawfully independent if he so stated his wish in writing. Thousands of Jews did so. Such was the case until November 1948, when the United Nations finally sanctioned the establishment of the Zionist state. We do not doubt that their success in finally realizing their goal was due in great measure to their having misled the world into viewing the Zionist cause as the Jewish cause. The formation of the Zionist state resulted in the automatic deprivation of the autonomy heretofore possessed by the Orthodox inhabitants of the Holy Land. The Zionists grasped in the acquisition of their new powers the opportunity to openly disassociate themselves from any identification with the Jews as a religion. They systematically began to orient the minds of their generations according to the tenets of Zionist nationalism. Through the ministry of religions, they employed part of the rabbinate to assist them. I've been quoting from JewsAgainstZionism.com and explaining how the Jews were informing and educating us that Zionism had nothing to do with establishing Israel in a religious purpose and reason in doing so. That Zionists started taking the term Jew and making it a non-religious term. Until today, most people think Jews are a race. This is absolutely incorrect. A true Torah-keeping Jew will inform you that the Jews are not a race. Far from it. They're a religion. There's Catholic, there's Protestant, there's Anglican, there's Pentecostal, there's Charismatic. These are all denominations. Jews is a similar category and title. It's just adherence to a certain religion. But Zionism has totally taken away the religiosity from the term Jew and has now made it a secular term in order to promote their purposes in having a Jewish state. Christians, above all people, ought to understand, according to the Bible, what a Jew is. If the Jews were a race, then why were there so many Gentiles brought into the nation of Israel who became Jews? There's the great story. The entire book of Ruth is about a Moabitess woman, a Gentile, who became a Jew. How could the Jews be a race if you can have Gentile people come in and become Jews? You see, there's a big deception going on, and we really need to open our eyes in order to properly understand Bible prophecy. Let me continue this quote. The religious Jews who by virtue of their faith clearly contradicted Zionist nationalism and who had lived peaceably with their Arab neighbors for generations became unwillingly identified with the Zionist cause and their struggle with the Arabs. They requested the United Nations that Jerusalem be designated as de facto international city. They appealed to the diplomatic corps assigned to Jerusalem, but to no avail. They were hence confronted with the choice of either becoming a part of the Zionist state, which diametrically opposed the interests of the Jews as a religion, or abandoning the land of which their forefathers were the first Jewish settlers. We find it of supreme importance to emphasize that we are fearful of the consequences of the Zionist rebellion against the Creator. Now these are Jews talking. As stated expressly in Jeremiah, "For it is bad and bitter your renunciation of God." We wish not to be affected by the behavior of this government, who in the name of Israel persist in their renunciation and utter disregard of religious Judaism, such as is clearly attested by their laws expressly permitting wanton autopsies. This is from the Law of Anatomy and Pathology in 1953. Also, the forcible desecration of the Sabbath, according to the Law of Emergency Labor Draft in 1967, and a profanation of holy sites by retaining non-religious custodians, desecration of holy cemeteries, Basafed, Beth Shiram, and elsewhere, and countless more examples, proof of which is readily available. In other words, the Jews say that this Zionist law in Israel has laws which absolutely go against what the Old Testament taught Israelites to keep. So how could it be God, having gathered them because they obeyed the law of God, which Deuteronomy 30 says he would do if they obey the law of God, when Israel has these laws that are totally against the law of God? They're breaking and violating commandments of God. Let me continue to quote. Insofar as all human beings find it necessary to the protection of their rights as human beings, we hereby request all those that find it within their power to aid us in reacquiring the rights we possessed prior to the formation of the Zionist state, to remain lawfully independent of Zionist authority. Here are Jews crying out to the rest of the world to help them and letting a message get across to the Arab nations around that we as religious Jews keeping the law of Moses are not in agreement with Israel's existence as a state whatsoever. And Christians are praising and thanking God for something that's brought on such persecution upon these true Torah-keeping Jews when they're trying to say we have nothing to do with this because it doesn't fit the commandments of the law of the Old Testament. Christians, wake up and realize what you're doing in applauding God for something God had nothing to do with and is giving persecution to people who absolutely want nothing to do with the reputation of being associated with Zionism in Israel. Notice what was read in those paragraphs. We find it of supreme importance to emphasize that we are fearful of the consequences of the Zionist rebellion against the Creator, as stated expressly in Jeremiah. And he quotes Jeremiah, "It is bad and bitter, your renunciation of God." These true Torah-keeping Jews call Zionist movement a rebellion against God. How can Christians think God is behind the Zionist movement when these true Torah-keeping Jews clearly see it's a rebellion against God and has actually caused anti-Semitism and put blame upon religious Orthodox Jews for the warfare and lack of peace in the Middle East, when these Orthodox Jews have completely rejected the very notion of Zionism? I even saw a photo on a website showing a Jew, an Orthodox Jew, carrying a sign, walking down the streets of New York City. Zionism has caused anti-Semitism. There's a statement on their website that makes this claim. It shows the ideology of Zionism promoting anti-Semitism. The website shows a Zionist threat level alert, which is updated regularly to indicate the influence of Zionism in threatening the well-being of Jews across the world. I copied and pasted the code for the alert that you can actually see at rightlydividingtheword.com in the Bible Studies section under my message and article entitled Jews Against Zionism. The alert that they show on their website can actually be copied to any website, and it's updated regularly. And here's what the explanation is of this alert. True Torah Jews monitor news events to assess the threat of Zionism to the worldwide Jewish community. It's an alert to Jews all over the world. Using a system similar to the U.S. terrorism alert, we will keep you posted of our assessment of the Zionism threat level based on current events. Naturally, some areas of the world, such as the so-called State of Israel, are in greater danger than most, but our assessment is for the entire world Jewish community. Far from being the saviors of the Jewish people, the website continues, the Zionists are the true self-hating Jews who have had nothing but contempt and outright hatred for the Jewish people and Judaism. Anti-Semitism has been the oxygen and lifeblood of the Zionists throughout the ages to the present day. By contrast, we anti-Zionist Jews have been doing all we can to reduce hatred of Jews by proclaiming the true nature of the Jewish religion in contrast to the heresy and idolatry of Zionism. We hope this will help Jews awaken from the brainwashing of the Zionists.